All right, all praise, glory, and honors most certainly due to the Most High Elohim of the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I want to say peace to you in the name of his son, Yahushua Mashiach, who we know as Jesus the Christ. So it's a blessing each and every single time that I can come before you to bring a message contained in this word, and I never count it as a light thing to do so. The title of today's message is, Can Single Women Be Married to Jesus? Again, the title is, Can Single Women Be Married to Jesus? You know, this notion or idea that an individual can be married to Jesus. You oftentimes hear this among single women, and you would hear it in a Christian church. And I've never done a lesson or ever addressed it the way I'm about to address it right now, because it's just, I never was compelled to, but I feel compelled to now because, quite frankly, I'm seeing sisters who are single in the faith claim to be married to Christ. And that is not biblical. Okay, nowhere in the Bible from Genesis to Revelation do you see that a person on an individual level, particularly a single woman, can be married to Christ. That's not actually biblical. And what you're showing is that you don't understand marriage, and you don't understand the relationship between the Lord and his bride. See, his bride is not an individual. His bride is the church collectively. It's not a single person. So let's go to pick it up at Genesis, and peace to everybody that's listening. Let's go to Genesis, the second chapter in verse 24. Genesis, the second chapter in verse 24. Now, in reason I'm here is because it is, if you want to know something about what the Bible says, you want to go to when it's first introduced. Okay, so for example, can you be married to Christ? Well, let's look at what marriage is. So this is the first institution amongst mankind, and who is this? Who are the entities of the people within a marriage? Genesis 2 and verse 24 says, "Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh." Okay, so now when you look at the institution of marriage, who can be married? Right off the bat, a man and a woman, Ish and Isha. Two men can't be married. Two women cannot be married. And furthermore, you don't see any marriage between people or the woman and the Lord. No, you just see individuals. And when you understand the purpose of marriage, you see how this is further the case. This is Malachi. This is the book of Malachi. And here we see the purpose of marriage. Okay, Malachi, and we will pick it up in the second chapter and verse 15. So here in context, he's talking about the man who would try to petition the Lord, make prayers to the Lord, but he's been treacherous with his wife. He says in Malachi, the second chapter, verse in verse 13, it says, "And this have ye done again, covering the altar of the Lord with tears, with weeping, and with crying out, insomuch that he regardeth not the offering anymore, or receiveth it with goodwill at your hand." So he's not really listening to you. He hears you, but he's not taking heed. He said, "Yet ye say, wherefore?" In other words, why is that the case? It says, "Because the Lord hath been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth, against whom thou hast dealt treacherously, yet is she thy companion and the wife of thy covenant. And did not he make one?" And then again, he made them one flesh, right? How were they one flesh? They one flesh through sexual intercourse. He said, "Yet had he," see, that's another thing. See, that's another reason why you're not married to the Lord. The Lord is not engaging with you in that way. See, we have to actually deal with what the book is saying. We know that people outside of the truth in today's Christianity and the other faith systems, that they don't really know. But you really, if you're in the faith, you should actually know. If you're single, you actually are not married to Christ, and nor do you have a covering. That's just a reality. If you're, I'm not talking about a daughter in her father's household. But yeah, that's just the reality of the situation. So he said, it did not he make one, yet had he the residue of the spirit, and wherefore one, that he might seek a godly seed. So that's the purpose of marriage, to bring forth children, but not just any child, a son of God. Okay? And the son of God, a child of the Most High, one who is following the Lord, right? A righteous seed. He said, therefore, take heed to your spirit and let none deal treacherously, and let none deal treacherously against the wife of his youth. See, you're not marrying any spiritual being at all. Again, because who were the first to be married? When you find the institution of marriage, you have a man and a woman. These are the only individuals that can be married. This is Matthew, the 22nd chapter. So sisters who are saying that, sisters need to stop saying that you're married to Christ. That's not the case. Okay? That's simply not the case. Let's take it up in Matthew, the 22nd chapter. Right? So when we see here, we see the liberate law. Okay, these Sadducees who said there is no resurrection, they didn't believe in the resurrection. They came up with this question for Christ. They thought they were going to trip him up because they put forth and it is this year's law, when a man didn't have any children with his wife and he died, his surviving brother, was supposed to marry his deceased brother's widow and raise up seed in his brother's name, so his name wouldn't be blotted out, and by default that woman would be taken care of. Okay, see, just a side note again, he has all these things in place for me. I'm talking about the Lord in his law has all these things in place for women to be cared for. But what you can't do and what you should not do, which is make up things. Okay, so now this is Matthew the 22nd chapter in verse 30, because they gave a scenario. She married one after the other, right? One died after the other, these men, and then he said, so in the resurrection, whose is she? For they all had a wife. And he said in verse 29, Jesus answered and said unto them, ye do err, not knowing the scriptures nor the power of God. Right? So we have a lot of errors regarding the understanding of the scripture even today. But he said, for in the resurrection, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven. So now he said, you're not, if you are a resurrected being, and a resurrected being is what God is. He said, yeah, God's children, the Most High God. This is actually the procreation. This is what he made us in his image and the likeness, because we were made to be what he is ultimately, which is God. So now, and he compared it to the angels, though, because the angels are eternal as well. So now, you're not marrying, nor given in marriage in the resurrection. So therefore, you can't be married to Christ. That's not biblical whatsoever. And so, quite frankly, if you want to be married, you should be looking to marry a righteous man, not Christ, because that's not possible. Let's go to John the 10th chapter. John the 10th chapter and verse 27. Because you have those that belong unto, matter of fact, let's go to Exodus 24. Exodus 24. Let's see when the marriage took place. So the Lord did marry some, but notice who it is. It's not one individual. It's a collective. Exodus 24. Exodus 24. And we'll pick it up at verse 7. Okay, because they went into covenant with the Lord. Exodus 24 verse 7 says, so this is Moses, right? Moses took half, verse 6, Moses took half of the blood and put it in basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. And he took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people, and they said, all that the Lord have said will we do and be obedient. That's just like in the modern marriages, you say, love, honor, obey. A woman says, I do, right? That's what Israel did. I do, but it wasn't one woman, it was the whole nation. See, let's go to Jeremiah. He went into covenant with the whole nation. You even look at a bride price when he brought them out and they spoiled the Egyptians, right? It's not just one woman. This is Jeremiah, the 31st chapter. Jeremiah, the 31st chapter. And we'll pick it up at verse 31. It says, Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break. Notice what it says here. Although I was an husband unto them, saith the Lord. Okay, so what? So now we read about that covenant. And then what has happened is you read that language, but you have to be specific in what you're reading. And what you're reading is not telling you that an individual can be married to the Lord. That's just not the case. All right. He said, but this shall be I'll read verse 32 again. It says, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was an husband unto her, like individual, no, them collective, saith the Lord. Then he says, but this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. So now he says, now he made the covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. He likens them, when you read it, it's like two women, but we know these are multitudes of people. We know that this is his church. The church we know started in the wilderness, Acts the 7th chapter tells us. It's a collective that he went into marriage with, into covenant with. It was not a single individual. He said, but this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my law in their inward parts and write them in their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people. Again, this is a collective. It is not simply not an individual woman. And so, sisters, you got to stop. Well, you don't got to do anything, but you're saying something that is not biblical when you're saying that you're married to Christ. That's that language is uncomfortably familiar with what the nuns, the Catholic nuns say. They say they're married to Christ, which is also not the case, and they are, quite frankly, just a continuation of the Roman vestal virgins. See, that's one thing. They would be married to Christ. They'd be virgins. You're not married to Christ just because you got some kids and no husband, or just because you single. That don't make you married to Christ at all. But that's not biblical. And again, I've heard several sisters in the truth say this. This is not the case. This is not the case at all. So we want to get back to the basics of the Bible. And quite frankly, marriage is value, but marriage is with a man and a woman. Okay. So, but he is the bridegroom. Let's pick it up at Matthew 9 and verse 14. Then came to him the disciples of John, saying, why do we and the Pharisees fast oft, but thy disciples fast not? And Jesus said unto them, and the children of the bride chamber mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them, but the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken from them, and then shall they fast. All right, so he's the bridegroom for sure, but understand the bride is the church. Okay, that's the bride. So with that, brothers and sisters, I want to encourage you, and I talk about this often, that we, particularly as believers, we need to reevaluate how we're approaching marriage. We need to reevaluate ourselves. We need to consider the mistakes that we've made, and we need to start practicing marriage according to what thus saith the Lord. And that would be for the best benefit of our people. And with that, brothers and sisters, I want to say we at the Household of Faith meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue in Gary, Indiana at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. We also live stream right here on the Israel Teach YouTube channel. Our Virginia congregation meets every Sabbath at the Red Roof Inn at 153 Garrisonville Road, Stafford, Virginia at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, that's the Red Roof Inn at 153 Garrisonville Road, Stafford, Virginia at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we meet in Gary at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time at 5925 West 25th Avenue in Gary, Indiana, every Sabbath. And with that, brothers and sisters, it's always my prayer that you are edified.